Welcome to the Ruden Report podcast. I'm Dave Ruden, and we have our final edition football style of the podcast for the fall season. And we're not at an absence of things to talk about. We have two FCX state champions in 3 games, and Sean Ireland, as we record this 10 minutes ago, the final state poll came out. Staples 1, New Canaan 2, Greenwich 6, Darien 7, Wilton 9. So it's a strong showing for the league. How you doing? And we haven't talked. Did you watch any of the games?
Yeah. I watched them on the record, and tell you what, the state was all classes blessed us with pretty good games this weekend. You know, a lot of the games came down to the wire. It was a good showing for the state, great showing for the FCX. So job well done by everybody involved.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and you had 2 classic games. The Wilton loss to North Haven. If not for turnovers, that should have been a 7-0 game. A great defensive battle. I was at Darien, New Canaan, and that was just a terrific game. I do not want to be on Darien's schedule next year. I'll say that right now. But a much different Darien team than we saw on Thanksgiving. And it took a couple of great plays late for New Canaan to repeat. And then Max Murillo should be able to get egg sandwiches and donuts and coffee and whatever else a high school student in Westport wants, because he made the big 2-point saving tackle that finished off a 21-20 win for Staples, and their first number 1 ranking in the state since 1975.
Yeah, that people, I don't think, to novice fan, I don't think people realize how good of a play that was. Because if you look at the replay, I'm almost positive he was the inside leverage guy. So the guy, the receiver ran a whip route. He has the inside coverage. He was a person who made the tackle on the outside coverage. So that play was phenomenal. You know what? That game had all the makings, late touchdown, go for 2 with a minute something left. And, that was great.
Yeah, the game was at halftime when I got home, and I really wanted to write my story and get it done. So I did not watch the game. I'll get access to it and watch it sometime this week. But it was just a great game. We had, 1 good and 2 really, really good finals. Should we bounce around, or you want to discuss the poll first? Because obviously,
listen, I think I said before, Dave, on our last episode, that if Staples wins, I think they're the best team in the state. I think you can flip a coin between them and New Canaan, but I just think Staples has a better resume with who they played, and things like that. Now, New Canaan played some great teams too. They did play Windsor, they did play Maloney, Darien twice. But I just think overall Staples has a better resume. I'm okay with the poll. This is me maybe being a homer. I would just flip-flop Wilton and Darien. But besides that, I would put Wilton at 7, Darien at 9. But besides that, I'm okay with how the poll came out.
Yeah, I gotta check. I'm not going to be too popular in my hometown or my alma mater, because I think 21. I think 5 voters didn't vote Staples number 1, and I'm one of them.
Oh man!
Which I'll admit. And number 1, I cannot criticize anybody who voted for Staples. It's not, you were wrong. I can defend why I picked New Canaan. I can't criticize anyone for voting for Staples, and I really thought long and hard about it. And it really comes down to the Thanksgiving game, and a lot of writers bumped them all the way up from 5 to 1, and I bumped them up from 3 to 5, and I didn't bump them over New Canaan. I didn't vote them over Maloney. I had Maloney number 1 in my final poll out of the regular season. So I looked at it. Did Staples do something in the postseason for me to bump them over New Canaan? I had Maloney as the #1 team, and I had New Canaan beating Maloney. So they beat the #1 team, and the way I had it, at least going in, and then they beat an improved. They beat an improved Darien team. Yeah, I thought Staples. It basically, I'm not just to say Staples did this or that. It's not an anti-Staples vote. It basically just came down to I had New Canaan 2 and Staples 3 going into the playoffs, and I didn't think New Canaan did anything, or I didn't see anything that was done for me to switch that vote.
Yeah.
And if Staples had been 2 and New Canaan 3 going in, I wouldn't have switched the vote. So it's not anti-Staples. It's going based on what my vote was. And like I said, other writers bumped Staples higher than I did. I just didn't see bumping them over a Maloney team that had, that only lost once to Greenwich, but then again, Staples beat Greenwich. So
Right.
yeah,
We're
again,
splitting hairs here. Like you said, there's no wrong answer. There's no.
yeah, I don't think anybody could criticize anybody for voting for any of those teams.
Yeah, when I looked at it real quick, Staples had I think 8 games versus somebody who was in the playoffs. So that's 8 out of 13 playoff games they played. So and they won actually 9. They had 8 wins. So they 9 of their 13 games are against a playoff team. And they went 8-1 against those 9 teams in those 9 games.
Where you can criticize me, and I probably can criticize myself, is Staples had a tougher strength of schedule regular season, and I probably, if you want to criticize me, I undersold them there.
Yeah. No, but again, New Canaan had 7. 7 of their 13 were playoff games. So actually, 8. So it's.
I think we should get, for all those people who want to go to, who wanted a game at Boyle Stadium, let's play it this weekend.
Yeah.
You know how great a Staples New Canaan game would be?
That'd be phenomenal.
It would be great. And all the people who whined about not having to, wanting to travel, which Fairfield County, you got to stop crying about moving games from where there was. And I'll tell you what, it was a disappointing crowd at the Darien New Canaan game.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Dave, I'm on the other side of that. I'm not saying they got to play it at Boyle, but man, maybe even Southern Connecticut, they got a nice venue. That's just like I always say, is this tournament for? Who's it for? This tournament's for the kids. It's not for me. It's not for you. It's not.
It's also for the fans too that want to go to all the games.
Right, that's true.
And I don't know how many. I have no idea. I'm guessing there aren't a lot who went someplace to see all 3 games.
Yeah,
maybe somebody went to see 2. I don't know, but I'm gonna get myself in trouble here. But I'll be honest about it. New Canaan and Darien student fan bases are not as strong as a lot of other FCX schools.
Yeah,
and Wilton and Staples are 2 of the strongest. Wilton and Ridgefield have been top 2 or 3, and I'd put Trumbull off top of my head there for a while. Staples, up until 5 years ago, had a terrible student fan base, and now it's become one of the best fan bases. Yeah. We saw what Stanford did. Stanford did with soccer. Darien and New Canaan are just not as they're a little bit more apathetic than other student fan bases, and it's so hard to tell in Rensselaer how many people are there, because it's just so big. You could have 5,000 people there and it still looks empty. But to me, it didn't look like the crowd there would have filled Dunning or Darien.
Yeah, Dave, that's what I was just going to say, too. If you look at the games, it's a noticeable difference. The games that were played at Central, there was an atmosphere. Watching it on TV, you heard the crowd. You see the crowd. It was intense, and it was man, this is great. And then you watch the games at the Ren, and it's man, it almost looked like a scrimmage.
Yeah.
It was – they got to do something.
I covered
it. The Ren is too big.
I covered at a route last year for the New Canaan Maloney game, and it's a better venue because
Yeah.
exactly you have it's more enclosed, it's more condensed. The fans can feel like the fans you can hear more. The players I'm sure feel the impact of the fans more. So I think Rensselaer, while it's really nice to be able to play where UConn does. I don't think it's a good venue only because it's too big for the number of people to go. Basically, what you would think would make Rensselaer ideal is actually what hurts it as a good venue.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely. It
too,
has all the
it's just too,
amenities. Yeah.
it's just too big, and you're not going to get a big crowd there.
Right. Right.
So, but shout out to the Staples and Wilton fans who went there. And I'll tell you what though. The New Canaan and Darien fans who were there, shout out to them because they actually took advantage of how big the place was. The New Canaan fans, I watched the first half in the press box because I had and the game started late. I was able to post the story and photos of the Wilton game beforehand. I didn't want to wait till late. So I watched the first half in the press box and then went down for this second half. And on New Canaan's tying touchdown and winning touchdown, the fans went from like
Yeah.
the yard line and went running over
Yeah.
into the end zone. You could see Will Langford, celebrating with the fans if he could jump higher or he would have done the Lambeau leap
Yeah.
with everybody. So shout out and the Darien fans were the same way on the other side. So the fans that were there, they did a really nice job.
Yeah.
So and North Haven 3, I can't argue with that. West Haven 4, Maloney 5, that's the way I had it. Greenwich 6 is the way I had it. I think, you know what? I think I might have had Darien. I think I had Darien 7. Actually, I had Bloomfield a little higher. I might have had Bloomfield 7 and they're 10. And then I went Darien, Hand, Wilton. I think that's the way I had it. So other than one spot here or there, I'm pretty much in tune with the way the riders were.
Yeah. Like I said, this is just me being on the Wilton bandwagon this year. They have 3 losses. All 3 were.
They lost the top 3 teams in the poll.
Yeah, right.
They lost to the top 3 teams in the poll. So
yeah.
Again, I can't argue with that's probably a little bit of an anti-double M vote, looking at versus L and double L, and no shame losing. I had North Haven from what everyone told me. I had them I know I had them in my top 5, and I might have had them 3 in my. I know I had Greenwich number 1 in the first poll. I think I probably put New Canaan 2 because of historical finishes. I know I had Staples in the top. I gotta be honest, the beginning of the year, I didn't think Staples was gonna be as good as they turned out to be. I had them I think in the between 5 and 10. But again, you just don't know. I didn't know New Canaan was going to be this good. My New Canaan votes and Staples votes were sort of based on what they've done in the past, and Staples surpassed what it's done in the past.
Yeah, that's true too. And then like looking back, if you remember week 1, Staples and New Canaan both lost. And it was like, all right, maybe they are a little bit down.
Everybody, the league, I think the league went like 8-8 in the first week.
They did.
Panic set in.
Yeah.
It's a
long season.
It's all where you finish. Shout out, shout out to Adam Barron, shout out to Staples. And man, what a way. Caleb Smith's a special kid. He's going to be, go down in my personal Hall of Fame as someone who just covers the FCAC for talent and class. He's on a pedestal. There are other people with him, but there's nobody above him.
Yeah. I mean, that kid is, he's tough. And it's like one of the things, like, they didn't throw the ball that much, if I remember correct. They didn't throw the ball that much. I didn't realize he was injured. I think that came out after the game. Maybe his shoulder was a little banged up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is part of why well, I mean, he's still taking hits, running the
Right.
ball,
But
but it's easier for him to run than for him to pass.
yeah, and it's just great. Like I think he carried the ball 19 times, 17, 19 times, something like that. So like the ball's in his hands and you still can't stop him. And that's credit to the big boys up front too. Their offensive line did a heck of a job, all year.
Their line was so good.
Yeah.
Their line, their linebackers, real underrated parts of their team.
Yeah. Yeah. But Caleb, I mean, if you could pick one person to start a team around this year, he's definitely the guy.
Yeah, I'm starting to fool around, and I don't think it's going to be hard as it usually is. I'll have my all Ruden report team out either Tuesday or Wednesday, definitely by Wednesday, and it's not going to be as hard to do. But there'll definitely be a few Staples linebackers on there. Yeah, they you know what, they went second week to finish. They just did the job. They found ways to win when they were tested by Fairfield Prep in the quarterfinals. A team like Staples, they were going to probably be easier to beat in the first round than afterwards. And when Prep gave them a scare, they found a way to win. When they were tested during the regular season, it wasn't often. They found a way to win. And kudos to West Haven for going for two. I like that strategy. And you know what? It was a half a yard from being a state champion, and it was a Staples defensive player in the secondary. One of the best secondaries, if not the best in the state, that made the preserving play.
Yeah, and the thing that goes unsaid too, like you got to give West Haven a ton of credit. They went through so much heartbreak during the week with the passing of their player. And I feel so bad. I know his name. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But, just to go through that while you're trying to prepare for a state championship game,
Yeah.
it's tough, but they did it. And credit to the coaching staff, just to keep the whole team and the whole community together during this terrible time, and to represent West Haven, how they did it, that's just unbelievable.
Excuse me. Let's bounce over. I'll be able to talk just because I was at the game. I'll be able to talk a little bit more about Darien, New Canaan. What a great game. It was just Darien gets the ball and goes right downfield. Ben Rolap, I think it was a 17-yard pass to Roach, and then a 60-yard pass to Charlie Tom gets knocked out of bounds at the 3-yard line, and then McGuckin goes in from there. And second week in a row, game in a row, New Canaan gives up a touchdown, and they give up a touchdown to a team they're favored over. And that team has some instant confidence and played with the confidence the rest of the way. And it was just no team led by more than 7 points. Darien takes a 21-14 lead in the third quarter, and Charlie Tom had two 1-yard runs, and I didn't realize this till I went back. They were both 13 plays. One was 98 yards, and the other was I should have been 6. They ate up 11 minutes on two 13-play drives, one of which went 98 yards.
That's good.
Playing good football against probably in the argument for best defense in the state, along with Staples, along with North Haven.
Absolutely. When I was watching, I'm not gonna lie, when New Canaan ran the fake punt and it got snuffed out, I was like, oh, that Darien just did it. But New Canaan's credit, that was in their own territory, right? It was
at the 30-yard line.
Yeah.
That was the turning point of the game.
Yeah.
New Canaan.
When they stopped them there, I'm like, oh, Darien just did it. But New Canaan's defense, they came through again, and they're like, you're not scoring. So they held them, and then after that, it was great. But when they snuffed out that fake punt, I was like, oh.
Yeah, the perfectly defense play by I think it was Bonner who defended the play perfectly, and then if they get a field goal there, they win the game.
Yeah.
I think if they get a field goal there, they win the game. And I think I was standing with Dave Stewart at game time at that point, and we both kind of looked at each other like we thought it was a panicky move. And they had not done anything. And again, I went back to my notes. They only had the ball for 1 3 and out in the third quarter, and they're going 3 and out again. And it seemed a little panicky at that point, but their defense made a stop. And then New Canaan comes and drives down, and a shout out to Luke Robinson, New Canaan's quarterback, because and I did this as much as anybody, and this isn't criticism, but it sort of is by implication. Talking about this is a New Canaan defensive team. It doesn't pass the ball like it has in the past. Didn't want to pass the ball as much as had in the past. And that sort of implies the quarterback is sort of, well, the quarterback's not good. And it's not that the quarterback isn't good. It's just the quarterback isn't Drew Pine or Michael Collins. And 99% of the quarterbacks in the state aren't. So it's just been a different dynamic for New Canaan. But New Canaan wanted to show Darien something different. They came out passing the ball. You don't do that if you don't have confidence in your quarterback to execute it. And they asked Robinson to do more than just manage the game. They asked him to help win it, and he did.
Yeah.
Drove him downfield, a nice touchdown pass to Langford to tie the game up, and it's game on at that point.
Yeah. A little wheel route up the sideline, perfectly placed ball. The kid caught it in stride. The quarterback, he's a quarterback on the state championship team, so he's doing something right. He's all right.
Nah, he did a great job, and then in the play that changed things around, he's probably the smallest guy on the field, Ryan Barnard, and he's inside linebacker. He looks like an undersized cornerback, and a blitz, he comes right through up the middle. And he hits Ben Rolap, the quarterback, when he's not looking. The ball drops to the ground and literally drops to the ground, not around. And Barnard falls on it. And now you have a huge momentum changing play late in the game. And New Canaan goes in and scores. Alex Benevento, who we talk about how this New Canaan team was so different, so similar to last year's, and it was. The big difference was Alex Benevento having a real playmaker like he turned out to be. And he scores on a 6-yard run, and the New Canaan defense holds Darien again. And kudos again to New Canaan for running a real difficult gauntlet to get to an easy and not too difficult game against Killingly. But having a rally in the fourth quarter twice against Maloney, who I had as the number 1 team in the state going in, had only lost on a late field goal to Greenwich at that point, and then a Darien team that everything came together. It was, people are going to say, and if North Haven hadn't forfeited that game, that Darien wouldn't have made the state playoffs or not. Let's maybe right, but let's shove that aside. The point is Darien did make the playoffs, and they're going to be so much the better team for having to play these 3 games and to play it so well, because the team at the end of the season, regular season, that you said you wanted Darien to be next year, they became that in the state playoffs.
Yeah, Darien, they definitely turned on at the right time. Maybe that loss on Thanksgiving kind of, I don't know, sparked them a little bit. Because they were the last 3 games of the year that they played, they were a completely different team than what we saw throughout the entire year. And you said before, they got a lot of horses coming back. They're not going to be a fun team to play next year. And I'm sure they're already motivated. I'm sure they're already working out, So they're not going to be a fun team next year. I can tell you that.
Who's the best returning quarterback in the FCAC next year? You can make you can make an argument for roll up. There are other
Absolutely, you can. Yeah.
Presley. There are guys, but if you say roll up, I don't think anybody could kill you. What's
Right.
the best receiving tandem next year? Roach and Tom.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
You can even argue on that. They
Right.
got 3/5 of their offensive line coming back. I
Yep.
don't know who's stepping in at running back, but what you saw of Darien passing the ball on Saturday, that's going to be what you're going to be seeing every week next week.
Yeah.
Next year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So funny to say it, they didn't win a title, but Darien may have helped itself more than any team outside of winning the title. But for the future, Darien probably benefited the most.
Yeah, definitely.
So they're going to be a fun watch next year, throwing the ball. And then Wilton, you know what? Wilton's got nothing to be ashamed of. They ran into a team that is a little bit better than them, and they had two late turnovers that led to touchdowns, or else they lose a 7-0 game. The 21-0 slightly misleading, and their defense for the most part stopped North Haven's running game.
Yeah, their defense was there all game. I don't know what down. I don't know what down it was when North Haven scored, but they can't. They ran this like little fake running back through the ball. The Wilton defender was this far away from knocking it away. It was a tightly battled game, like you said, Dave. A couple turnovers, very very late. You look at the score and say 21-0. No, they got beat pretty good. No, the game was a lot closer than that. It's just tough because North Haven was better. That's the only thing you could say. They were better.
Sometimes you just tip your there's no if this, if that. North Haven's the better team.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to tip your hat to the better team. But again, there's no shame. You want to win a state title, you get there, and there's only one outcome that is suitable to you. But they're also the top 3 teams in the state. So I mean, Wilton, if Wilton wants to say we're number 4, they can debate that. Maybe we do a double header. We get Wilton and either Darien or Greenwich, and we play New Canaan, Staples, and we get a little end of the year double header here. The guys don't put the pads away yet, and
let's do it.
But you know what? It was a great showing for the FCAC, a great year for the FCAC. I thought it was a fairly mundane regular season. There wasn't a lot of surprises. Most of the surprises came from teams where Ludlow and Stanford and early on McMahon, middle of the road teams in the past that played a little bit above themselves, but the postseason was great. It was, other than a blowout here or there, New Canaan in the quarterfinals, Staples in the semifinals. The FCAC represented itself as it always does really well, and that's why you always vote a couple of these FCAC teams high in the first poll, because odds are you're going to be right.
Yeah,
based on history.
Yeah, based on history, you're going to be right, no doubt about it. Between the FCAC and the SEC, they're the 2 premier conferences. Are there other teams outside the 2? Of course, but year in, year out, those are the 2 conferences that are always on the top. So you're never wrong putting any of those teams up there. I actually, when you were talking before, Dave, I looked because I just wanted to see Fairfield Prep actually got a handful of votes too. So they were in there for other teams receiving votes.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even look at the other teams receiving votes here, but
yeah,
some 4-7 team getting some votes.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. I'm not gonna kill anybody for doing that. I mean, look at just Naugatuck was undefeated, and they dropped out of the top. They dropped out of the top 15.
Yeah.
I think I had them 15, and they went to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They went to 17.
Yeah, yeah, um,
I didn't
yeah,
vote. I think it was Barlow. They got 11, 12, 13. I almost did this too. Barlow finished 15 and winning a state title.
mm,
And I almost put Barlow 15 just because you want to like get all 6 finalists up there. Uh,
yeah,
I gave it to Naugatuck for going undefeated during the regular season,
yeah.
but
My thing, Dave, until the NVL joins the alliance,
yeah,
like you never know. You
yeah,
never know. And
I
it's not a knock on Sonia and everything they've done. You just don't know if you're playing those teams week in, week out. Of course, you're going to make the states every year. You know what I mean? So until they join the alliance, the NVL, I don't know. They don't get much credit with me. I can tell you that.
I'm actually I'm sitting here talking about all this stuff, and I really should just call up my poll from call up my vote from yesterday here. Yeah, I had actually I did not put Naugatuck. I did not put Naugatuck in there. Uh I went New Canaan, Staples, North Haven, West Haven, Maloney, Greenwich, Bloomfield, Hand, Wilton, Darien, Windsor, Massac, Newtown, Cheshire, Shelton.
Yeah,
That's how I did it.
nice.
So full disclosure there, and yes, I'm not gonna I didn't pick Staples, and I went there, and if people want to criticize me, people let's put it this way, like I said again, and this is a good kind of way to close this out. You There's absolutely no way you can criticize anybody for voting for Staples one. And if anybody wants to make the point why they should be number one, I I can't argue with you. I'm not, for me to argue against Staples being number one is stupid. I'm just going to defend why I voted New Canaan
Yep.
number one. And again, I used my last poll, and if you want to criticize me, and it actually in retrospect, you can debate it. Did I have, should I have had Staples over New Canaan going into the final poll? I
Yeah,
had them.
it is what it
I had
is.
them
Yeah,
once, and you know what? The way I look at it, though, they're both state champions. I don't really. I just remember they're state champions, and
yeah,
that's it.
yeah. That's it. That's it. They both got banners and trophies they can hang. So
And they'll
uh,
both be in my vote in the top 10 start the season next year, and so will Darien, and I'm sure so will Greenwich.
nice,
And we'll
nice.
see what else has surprised. Sean, it's been a lot of fun. I know.
Yeah, it's been a blast, Dave.
I wanted to have you last year, and I was one coach leaving 2 months before the start of the season away from.
Yeah,
This would have been year two, but this has just been a lot of fun. I always say for this show to work, I need somebody knowledgeable and who's talkative and extroverted to do this. I'm not a radio guy. I'm not good enough to carry this by myself, and it's no fun anyhow. This has just been a lot of fun. We're going to start Wednesday with basketball and Mike Walsh, and that's a lot of fun too. But I think this podcast, I think for listeners, is as good as the basketball one that's been so popular, and that's a testament to you and all the work you've put into it.
well, thanks, Dave. And the thing I could say, you know, for the people who are in it for the right reasons, Dave, you're right at the top of the list. All the hours and hours of work that you do, and you don't do it for yourself. You do it for all the kids that are in the league. Not just football. You do it for every sport. And I don't know if people really understand how much time you do put into this stuff. And it does need to be noted. And on behalf of the entire league, we would just like to say thank you to you, Dave, for everything that you do to promote the athletes in the FCIAC.
Thanks a lot. That means a lot coming from you, and it's quite a compliment. And it's also a testament to the coaches like yourself and the players, because that's always been my motivation. I always say I remember what it was like to open up the paper and see my name in it when I did something well in sports. And that's kind of the attitude I carry into what I do, because I want kids now to experience the same feeling. So that's it for the Ruden Report football edition. I'm gonna go off set now and decide with Sean where I'm taking him out for dinner of his choice. So if you see us on a McDonald's or Burger King, it's on me.
Yeah.
Soda, not a shake though. But seriously, that's the Ruden Report podcast football edition for this year. Again, I want to thank Sean for all the great work. I want to thank Cooper Boardman for the sound editing. And Nothing But Net, our basketball podcast, starts on Wednesday. Take care and thanks for watching, everybody.
Congrats to the winners. Good job, everybody.
Yep, congrats.